Hello, everybody, and welcome to this index in-depth for the Gene Stealer cults. This is part one, so today I'm going to be thinking about the faction rules, the detachment abilities, the enhancements, and the strategies. Gene Stealer cults are a very unique army in 40k, playing that kind of guerrilla insurgent-style combat, and I think there's a really exciting rule set here for players to get to work with as they get stuck into 10th edition. Also, possibly a few things that are just wild and a little bit out of control, but we're going to have to see how it all works once people actually start playing games. So without further ado, let's get into it. You've got a very powerful faction rule here in the form of Cult Ambush. What this means is that when a GSC unit with Cult Ambush, and that's most of the infantry and bikers, not the characters or the vehicles, are destroyed, you roll a d6. On a 4-up, they are not destroyed properly, but instead go into Cult Ambush. And you add 3 to this roll for Battle Line. So a Battle Line essentially always go back into Cult Ambush rather than being destroyed. Any characters in the unit are killed, so if you have attached characters, you only get to use them once, then they're gone. When a unit goes into Cult Ambush, you can place an ambush marker on the board, so like a blip-style token, like the good old days of Night. You put this down somewhere, can't be within 9 of the enemy, and indeed, if the enemy manages to move into 9 inches of an ambush marker, it's removed. So you have to be a little bit careful with where you put these. But then in your subsequent turns, destroyed units can return as reinforcements where these tokens have been placed. This gives you massive potential for recycling your units, keeping the enemy under pressure, springing subsequent sort of traps and counterattacks, or sneaking in behind or into spaces that they have abandoned. So it's a very powerful tool. You have to be careful with the placement. There are various tricks and tools in the book for moving and manipulating these and mitigating enemy efforts to remove them as well. We'll talk about those in part 2. Wild, regenerating units. There's nothing quite like this in 40k. It's a little bit terrifying, and we'll have to see in practice whether this gets out of hand. Obviously, rolling that 4-up on more exciting elite units like Aberrants or Jackals has a lot of potential, but obviously, the real winners here are just straight up acolytes and neophytes who are just going to keep regurgitating and keep putting the enemy under pressure. The detachment ability comes from the Ascension Day Detachment. This is representing the sort of mighty uprising of the Gene Stealer cults. And the rule that this gives you is they came from below. What this means is when a unit is set up as reinforcements, you gain sustained hits 1 and ignores cover. So exploding 6s to hit, lots more additional hits with your ranged weapons, and ignores cover. Does technically work on the melee weapons as well, the sustained hits anyway, but obviously because of blip placement and that we don't really have any sort of obvious charge delivery tools or strats in this index, I think it's going to be primarily useful on your shooting. But this really helps your guns to slap on some extra damage, drown the opponent in shots, and every time a unit pops up, it's going to get this buff, which I think is massive and going to constantly improve the output of your deep striking units and encourage you to play the way that GSC are intended, by popping out of holes, firing a bunch of shots, and taking the enemy down. The enhancements are very exciting. We've got a really good set of enhancements here. So first up is Prowling Adjutant. This lets the leader's unit move d6 in response to an enemy unit moving within 9. So you could use this to come closer with a big brick of melee. You could use it to get away with a range unit. You don't want to get hurt. And you can also combo this with some quite fun stuff with the Jackal Alphas and Atalan Jackals, which we'll talk about in part 2. With Meticulous Planner, you gain the ability to what we term vect a strat. So what that means is when someone's using a stratagem, you can use this power, and then every other time they use it subsequently, it's going to cost 1 more CP. There are obviously some stratagems in the game right now that are very dangerous, very powerful, particularly the combinations with Overwatch. Being able to make things like Overwatch cost more, really, really useful. So I think this is a tool you definitely want in lists. Very, very cool, very powerful to have. Next up is my favorite one, Inscrutable Cunning. This enables you to infiltrate with the leader's unit, and when they spend CP on stratagems for that unit, you get them back on a 4-up. Very funny, lots of potential for putting Aberrants up the board early, or having an infiltrating unit of neophytes on a flank to be able to shoot and hold ground from the very start of the game. Combos well with other things you can do. to create massive forward pressure. There's other kinds of pre-game moving forward deploy in this book. There's a lot of that available. So being able to have like a big hammer unit or a big shooting unit also right in the enemy's face. And again, we've got redeploy tools too, massively powerful. So yeah, I think inscrutable cunning is excellent. Finally, you've got Focus of Adoration, which enables the leader's unit to intervene for free, and even if some other unit already has. Very cool tool, very nice to have. It's whether you can fit all of these in, not sure, and it's going to take a few games to work out how many of these is too many, I think. But obviously, you're in a world where your units are coming back for free, so you probably do have a little bit of leeway for characters and upgrades and stuff like that. Well worth experimenting with. Next up, we have got the stratagems. These are all great. Okay, so first up, 1 CP, Unquestioning Loyalty. You can use this when a character unit is targeted, and then you can use it to pass off the wounds they're suffering as mortal wounds to a friendly GSC unit. So if you've got a really valuable unit with a key leader unit in it, you don't want it to get hurt. You pop this strat, the damage it's taking simply gets passed off onto some willing collateral damage nearby. They take one for the team, as they would have wanted, and then your leader unit is more likely to survive. Again, given that your units are often just coming back for free, this is a really nice, easy way to just chuck damage that's going onto something valuable onto something eminently expendable and recyclable. Next up, you've got Coordinated Trap. This, I've put the CP in wrong. This is a 2 CP stratagem, not 1 CP, my bad. And it gives you +1 to wound in shooting or melee for 2 GSC units when targeting the same enemy. I think the cost makes this a little bit more situational. You're not going to be able to pop this all the time, but there are going to be big moments in a game where you're going into something with multiple units where that +1 to wound will be massive to make sure you push the damage through. Next up, we've got Tunnel Crawlers. This is a 1 CP strat, and it actually is, I promise, that allows you to deep strike 3 inches away. So this used to be a paid upgrade for 1 unit. Now you can do it potentially whenever you're bringing a unit in from reinforcements. I think this is absolutely massive. Obviously, you've got to be able to survive any Overwatch or shenanigans that they put on you when you come in, but it's very, very powerful to be able to just sneak squads in to gaps in the enemy lines. Really useful, really powerful. Another one that I really like is one with the darkness. So you can use this when a unit's being targeted in shooting. And once you pop this for 1 CP again, it gains stealth, so -1 to hit. And it also can't be targeted by enemy units outside of 12 inches. So this is a really powerful control strat. Let's imagine you've got a big brick of something on a flank. You're forcing a hard commit. Either they have to send a bunch of stuff into range to deal with it and knowing that you could very easily shield it, or they're going to undercommit, get it wrong, and then that leaves them vulnerable in turn to a counterattack. Very strong. I reckon I'll use this every turn forever. I really do. Next up, you've got a Perfect Ambush. And this is a nice, simple tool. Gives you +1 ballistic skill, +1 AP for a unit with its guns that's coming in from reserves. Very, very nice. Very, very effective. Really nice to just get that extra bit of accuracy, a little bit of extra damage. There's a lot of stuff out there minusing AP now. So being able to counteract that with Perfect Ambush, already coupled with ignoring cover from the detachment rule, really, really strong and really nice. And next up, you've got Return to Shadows. This is a classic, and it's got even better. And you can place at the end of your opponent's turn 2 battle line or 1 infantry units back into reserves to reappear in your turn. So this helps you switch up the play, go and attack somewhere else, put pressure on somewhere else, catch the opponent out if they've left a weak spot for you to get into. And the fact that you can bring 2 battle line off the board and then drop them down somewhere else is absolutely massive. If this is hand flamers or seismic cannon neophytes, being able to just drop the weapons you need suddenly into a weak spot on the board is really, really strong. So I have to say this stratagem set is a slam dunk. Everything in here is really powerful. And indeed, the entire framework and rule set for GSC looks extremely strong to me. Very exciting, plenty to work with, and they've managed to keep them interesting despite really stripping back the options that you have. And I think that's a triumph of index writing. Thank you so much for watching part 1. I'll be back soon with part 2, where I'll talk through some of my favorite units from the new index. We here at 6++ are really appreciative of your support. Please do hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to us. We're putting out lots of regular content at the moment. We're going to be dropping index in-depths all of the time as we try and review literally everything that's come out. And we also have our regular podcast shows. We go live in the UK at 8:30 on a Tuesday with that 6++ show. And we have other regularly scheduled programs in the works as well. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great time running these GSC, man. They look so fun.